Nithyananda, this is Ma Bodhanaa coming back to you after a very long time. And I'm here tonight to share a long story with you, or a story that took place over a long time. In the last 2 months, I've been healing from a fracture of the wrist. And I wanted to share this story because of the many mystical things that have been happening along with it. So at the end of July, after a very powerful rain, I was taking a walk in the woods with my dog. It's a walk just down from my house, and it's fields and woods. And I've been on this walk many times. But anyway, I was taking this walk, and I came to a place where there's a ravine, and because it was wet, I was taking extra care and putting down my left foot carefully and taking a hold of a small twig or tree with my left hand, and then placing my right foot down, when suddenly that right foot slipped out. And as I was falling, which wasn't a very far fall because I was on an embankment, I had my right hand behind me, which I have found out is not a good position to fall on. Anyway, the first of the many things that have happened in the last 2 months happened in that time slowed down completely. And it was as if my third eye went into immediate effect, scanning or seeing exactly what happened through the skin into the bone. And so as I turned and looked down, I mean, it's not as if you can think as you're falling that you would have time to turn and watch, but I literally watched my radius, the arm bone, I watched it literally fall or be pushed into my hand, all of the little bones. And I just felt like how you would watch this in slow-mo on a movie, like I saw the whole thing happen. Then when it was completed, when the fall ended, then I went back to the reality of the outside of my arm and saw that my wrist was out of place and my hand was out of place. It was like a elongated zigzag. And of course I knew right away that it was pretty broken. And but the other thing that was the most mystical thing is that I can't explain it except that I felt at the moment of the fall that Swamiji himself entered the bone. That's all I can say, is I felt Swamiji had entered the bone and was there. So what happened for me next is that I went into an incompletion, and this is a very old incompletion that has happened many times to me when I've been hurt or entered a trauma in some way. And as Swamiji says, when we're having an incompletion, there's just a very small moment where we are in powerlessness, but we quickly cover it up with our default way of operating, and mine is to go into problem-solving mode or go into, emergency mode, and to quickly survey this situation and figure out how I'm going to deal with this, since I was all alone and far away from my home. So that all happened. I went into that mode of taking care of myself and getting back home and getting in the car and going to the hospital. And one of the features for me of my default mode is needing to do it myself, like not having help around. So anyway, all of this happened, this accident, and then finding out that it was quite a bad break. The radius was broken in half, and it was pretty strongly or severely dislocated, off center and jammed into the bones. So the next day I had to have surgery and a plate and screws to put in to hold it into place. And then it was only after surgery, when they had gotten the radius away from the other smaller bones, that they found 2 other fractures. So a lot of healing was going to be happening, and rehab, and I was going about all of that, but I was not able to go back to the scene of the accident, neither in my mind or in person. Like every day I would walk past this path, but I just couldn't go back there. It was just literally in my stomach, made me so upset. So anyway, I was going for the last 2 months, doing a lot of resting, a lot of healing in the rehab unit with trying to get my hand to move again. And just 2 months later, just last weekend, I had the opportunity to be with the Balasants in Indiana, and I just posted about this on Facebook. And I had an Akashic reading face-to-face with Kalabhairava. And I asked him to heal my hand. And he reached forward with both hands and took my hand between his. And at the minute that he put his hands over my hand, my wrist, it's like I went again through the whole accident in very fast motion and spinning through it. And I knew that it was going to be healed, but it was not very comfortable, but it was extremely powerful. And so this event happened, and then one thing I can say is that driving home that weekend, my hand was able to grip the steering wheel for the first time. Another thing that I just want to share that happened during this 2-month process is that I received a body scanning by Nithyananda Swami. And this also is a very powerful experience that I'll share in another video, what she was shown. So anyway, this leads me up to tonight. So a lot of things have happened, and I've gone through a lot of healing, and I've gotten a lot of support, and I've done a lot of completion, and I've used my third eye. But tonight when I was taking the walk, I had the sudden, not just impulse and urge, but a direct knowing that it was time to go back to that scene of the accident. And so I turned onto the path with no fear at all, and I went into the woods. And the next most amazing thing happened besides the day of the accident itself, and that's that I suddenly felt that everything got quiet and that there was an extremely strong, powerful presence around me. I knew right away that it was Kalabhairava and that I was being completely protected. And I just can't explain how you know, because if you look with your regular eyes, nothing is there or different, but the knowing with the third eye is that there was something very huge and tall next to me on my right, and it was also all around me. And I just had the complete knowing that it was Kalabhairava. And so we walked together, and then there were flowers on the left, and suddenly I had the thought to take flowers to the site itself to offer to Kalabhairava. And I asked my third eye how many to collect, and the answer was 8. So I gathered up 8 flowers, and I continued on to the ravine where the fall had happened. And so I got to the ravine, and I just sat down at that spot. And the next thing that I was shown so strongly through my third eye is that it had been necessary to leave literally a part of me at that site, a part of me that was no longer needed or necessary, and perhaps was even an impediment to my growth. Because during the 3 workshops that happened during this point, the Kalpataru initiation into Mahasarashivoham, and the Experience Aushita workshop, and the Experience Alchemy workshop, all 3 of these workshops, during the process, there was so much going on about my arm and my hand. In the first process, what was going on is that I saw Swamiji directly in my vision as the Kailash experience, telling me that my arm was no longer mine, it was his. And also somehow, I had shared this in a video with Kathy, somehow that this plate was similar to the Kalasham, protection. And then in the Experience Aushita workshop, I was having the sensation or the information that this arm will be very useful. It will be part of my third eye, knowing. So now I'm sitting tonight at the bank on this ravine, and I have these flowers, and I close my eyes, and I felt clearly the third eye was telling me to go through all of the incidences, because when the accident happened, it was as if at least 6 or 7 or 8 very painful things in my life were all somehow in this one arm bone that was holding all of this. And so I went through each of these and gave a flower for each one. And then what I was just leading up to is that it became completely clear that this whole incident was to leave this behind at this spot. and to move forward in life with this mended bone or new bone material, because literally I had to fill in with this plate that's protection, that is now Swamiji's and Kalabhairava's, and to move forward in life with that. And it just felt like a complete understanding, complete understanding through me. So I wanted to share this with you and express to the whole world how Swamiji's grace is constantly with me and never leaves me, how Kalabhairava's protection is always there, how Shiva is constantly a source in my life. So that's the story. There'll be more, maybe a few more things about it in other videos, but I hope that you got something out of this story. And you can all have an opportunity to experience Kalabhairava himself and experience the Nithyananda yogis showing us their divine superhuman powers in Delaware, Ohio on October 20th. We'll be having a full-day workshop. They'll be flying in from India. And you'll have the opportunity to have an experience like I had when Kalabhairava was holding my hand and healing it. And I didn't mention, but that an observer said that when she looked at the chair, only the Shiva Linga was there. There was no Balasanth, there was no even figure of a being. It was Shiva Linga himself, Shiva's presence just throughout that whole room. So these things are possible. You can come to Delaware, Ohio on October 20th. It's a world tour there, though, so they'll be stopping in many other places around the world. Just keep checking our Facebook pages and our websites for more information. And most of all, coming up, Mahasadashivoham in Bangalore, India, with Swamiji himself, December 18th, for a beautiful 21-day program. Nithyanandam, have a wonderful evening.